remains. You may be seated. Roll call. Leonel Garza, I'm here, present. Ms. Sandra Garcia. Mr. Ruben Trevino. Mr. Martin Castillo. Here. Mr. Ray Farias. Not here. Mr. Jesus Amaya. Ms. Leticia Quintero. Not here. Dr. Gonzalo Salazar. There's four of us here. We have a quorum, so we'll continue. Nobody signed up for the public comment on item 6 on consent. This is this public comment. Nobody signed up. Moving on to item 6, consent agenda. Pull an item at this time if any of the board members to inquire on it or ask clarification. Anybody want any of the consent agenda items 1 through 11? No one wants to pull. I will entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items 1 through 11 as presented. Motion. Ms. Garcia. We have a motion. Is there a second? You need to press your button. You're still not. Can't hear you. It's Maya's. Put the mic. We have a motion and a second. Mr. Trevino, I need to be able to hear you on this for the record. But with motion, can you hear me? I can hear you very well. Thank you. Motion and a second. All those in favor, say yay, yes or no. Ms. Sandra Garcia. Mr. Ruben Trevino.
Yes.
Mr. Jesus Amaya. And Mr. Leonel Garza. Yes. Motion passes. We're going now to item 7, act number 1, discuss pertaining using current year versus prior year property value. This item is special entertaining impact, and I will turn this for this discussion, and we can have all the discussion that is needed. Dr. Salazar.
Mr. Garza, before you participate in discussion, I just want to frame this item for the benefit of those tuning in. The discussion that's about to take place is the requirement of first, the financial integrity ratings practice. Mr. Dua, our CFO, has done a great job of providing us a table with information that allows the board to consider current year values versus next year values. You see, I'll turn it over to him so that he can describe the way the form is laid out. After providing you some of the details of what is on this chart.
President. And this is a indicator. One of these things. Currently, we have 15 indicators moving forward here that we are currently in, which is the So there's gonna be 5 new indicators moving forward, and one of the 5 are we have a discussion property value. And again, this goes in turn with how the property values, whether it can increase or decrease, how it affects funding. On page 44 of the board book, is after this memo, what you end up seeing is property values. Values. No. And then right beneath. In the very 2019 ends up being full year 20, year that we're currently right now. Again, appraised values is a year behind. And then the very 2020 budget for the 2021 full year, 1920. And the reason this way is because these are the comparisons we have to do based on the current year values and the prior year values. Prior year values that we're utilizing are the ones from by the tech comp, which again they're considered preliminary right now because it hasn't certified. And if we go to the comptroller's website, that's where you're going to see the information and the narrative. They're still considered tentative and it's subject to be within in the summer. And then the 2020, those are the initial values that have been provided for appraisal district. So initially in April, they provide us the initial values we utilize to begin our budget. Final values provided for Cameron County Appraisal District are going to be finalized by July 30th. And then by then, with those final values, initial reviews, figure out what our rate will be, or to figure out what it is that we're going to get projected to receive in our state funding. And Los Fresnos has been very fortunate seeing its increase, in regards to continued increase in the property value. There has been a slight increase year after year, as you can see based on the numbers that I'm going to show you. This year, more than anything, we do see a significant increase, from what we had last year to what we're going to have currently. A significant increase, it's over the 7%. Because normally we would see a slight increase of either 2 or 3%. Here, the increase is a little more significant in comparison. And again, the reason this conversation is so important is because as we see an increase in our property values, in essence, what ends up happening is there could be a decrease, thanks to House Bill 3 was passed. House Bill 3, what we end up seeing is it has an inverse effect. If we end up seeing an increase in our property values, there's an increase in tax collection. Because it's going to be the responsibility of the school district to pass and collect on these taxes. The state will turn around and possibly provide less funding in regards to the foundation money that they provide. Could it have been opposite? Could there have been a decrease, in our taxes because of declining property value? Then the state would have provided us, additional state funding. So it has an inverse relationship to where, House Bill 3 ends up saying this is how we're making you whole. So again, it all goes back to depending on how our values end up standing is what we project funding to be moving forward, and again that establishing our next.
Mr. Basaldua, you said as far as the increase of 7% in the possibility, and it is quite difficult to understand this. My basic question is, this increase is going to help the school district? If not, more, is it still going to be able to can balance our budget, stay home? So, the question is, where are we going to be as our budget next coming year? I know it could be hard to determine that, but just to give us an idea of
House Bill 3 and interpretation is they're making us whole regardless. You know, whether it's an increase in the property values or decrease, the state will in turn funding necessary to either make up that in turn or decrease. You know, and that's what I'm going to present to you briefly where, because we have an increase in our property value, there's going to be an increase in tax. So there's an estimated amount we're going to get less funding from the state because we can see that there's going to be additional funding that we're going to get from tax. So to answer your question, we are still being made whole because again, since we see additional taxes, they're going to provide us less funding.
Thank you.
Again, just go over the numbers briefly. The very from the 2019 tax, that's under the P2 values. That's where you end up being 2 billion versus right next to it on the far right is a 2.4 billion. So there ends up being again total of 323 million increase from last year to this year. And again, these are based on the initial projected numbers. And then right beneath that, under the T8 values, last year we had the 2.2 projected increase of 2.6. And then that shows an increase of the $327 million. Turn around and go back to the memo that I attached. So in essence, based on these preliminary numbers, we're seeing an estimated increase, you know, insofar as what we're going to assess and collect in tax, an increase of 1.6 million. But that in turn, by decrease in our state funding of 1.4 million. The difference in regards to how it is that we estimated increase 1.6 million in tax in the very, again, the very far right column, second box that I have, third to the last line item, it says M&O adopted M&O rate. So we see last 21 million estimated is this year in 2021, 23.4 million. And that based on the projected tax rate, now it's just an estimate. That's where we're seeing that there could be an increase in tax collections of the one. And on the subsequent page, page 40 on board, what we end up seeing there is we end up seeing the foundation payment. It's again that box on the bottom on the right under M&O state aid, the foundation school fund, the 73 million. And again, last year it was very close to 70.73 million. Also, however, under the available school fund per capita that we received, again, the very last line, page 44, the available school fund, we received 2.4 million, and this year estimated to receive 3.9. And that's where there ends up being that decrease, 4 million. So again, just in total overall, just based on projected numbers, we would be getting additional tax to, you know, an increase in our tax collection, but the inverse effect is we are still being made whole based on the interpretation of 3, because they're saying that we're not losing any type of revenue. It's just going to be the responsibility of the school district to have.
Any members have any questions? You can continue, sir.
You know, like I said, this is just one of these things where we had presented discussion purposes. Last year was the first year that it was required, and then moving forward, being one of the first indicators, we always have to be able to show that we had discussion with the board 120 days prior to adopting the new budget. Moving forward, you know, at our next presentation, we're going to be able to give you a little bit more information in regards to the projected, you know, tax going to be collecting as well as how it's going to.
Our next presentation will be at next meeting. Dr. Salazar, anything?
I don't have anything to add. Mr. Garza, members of the board, just if anything is to recap what Mr. Basaldo said. There's anytime that we generate more tax revenue locally, we see a reduction in state aid, in state revenue. And if anybody wanted to engage in dialogue about that, this would be the time to do it. Otherwise, we can move on to the next item, sir.
Any, have any questions? Okay, we're gonna move on. Item 2, discuss and take action to approve the superintendent's personnel recommendation for the following positions for the 2020-2021 school year. A, B, L, S, S, P, and entertain a motion at this time. Mr. Trevino. We have a motion. Is there a second? Ms. Garcia. We have a motion and a second. Discussion.
Chairman,
Mr. Amaya.
wondering, is like a paid internship to where are they getting their required for a couple hours to work for us?
Dr. Salazar, can you help us?
Yes, Mr. Amaya, this intern would be an employee of the district receiving a salary and completing the requirements for certification. So at year end, the employee will be hired as a full-fledged LSSP.
We ever done this?
Yes, sir.
Does that satisfy you, Mr. Amaya? Any other questions? There are no more questions. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Yes, no. Ms. Sandra Garcia? Mr. Ruben Trevino? Mr. Jesus Amaya? Coach? Mr. Amaya?
Mr. Garza, I might point out that Mr. Farias joined. I want to point out that Mr. Farias joined the meeting during our discussion on our last item.
Okay,
And Mr. Farias, if you would press your space bar, you can participate. Otherwise, you are muted.
Coach Amaya. Coach Farias.
Mr. Farias, would you please press your space bar?